More than 80% of amputations begin with foot ulcers. That's according to the Mayo Clinic. Improving circulation and proper wound care are key to reducing complications related to those foot ulcers, such as amputation. Making great strides in helping to solve one of the biggest issues preventing the healing of these ulcers, infection, is Spectrum Antimicrobials. Hoji Alimi is the CEO, and he is here with us. Thank you so much, Hoji, for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
So in layman's terms, describe your product and how it mimics the human body's ability to combat these bad bugs.
Kim, as you know, what we have done over the many years, we have been trying to understand the how body's immunology and immune system works in general. And in my opinion, the field of immunology is a very vast universe. And the more we have dived into it, the more we have understood as scientists, we are realizing that our immune system is capable of producing a very specific chemical that is the most potent antimicrobial, antiviral product in the world. That simply is called hypochlorous acid. It's very simple in terms of hydrogen, oxygen, and chlorine, putting them together. And that's what our immune system produces, almost like a stomach enzyme for the immune cells when they digest the bacteria or the unwanted viruses in our body. What we are doing is we are producing that same chemical that our immune system produces and our body can well tolerate. We are producing it in different concentrations, viscosity, chemistries for very specific applications, whether we are targeting to treat an infection in the eye, in the abdomen, in pulmonary, and so on. So that's what we have accomplished.
So how is it that your version of the body's own defense system is more effective against those bad bugs such as MRSA?
Well, historically, the medical community has been combating pathogens, bacteria, especially the resistant strains of pathogens, with the use of antibiotics. And as you know, Kim, the overall use of antibiotics, not only in healthcare, but in agriculture, in other facets of our economy, has led to exposing bacteria in our environment to these different types of antibiotics. And what is happening is bacteria are getting exposed to minute concentration of these antibiotics, become resistant, and then they actually reside on our skins, whether you're a physician, you're a nurse, you're carrying, or a patient, you're carrying these now resistant pathogens from the community into hospitals. And when you have an infection caused by these known as superbugs, the current arsenals of antibiotics are not working. Where in the past, it used to take 10 years to actually see resistance, for example, to penicillin. Now the new class of antibiotics that they're coming out, within months, we are seeing resistant strains of pathogens to those newly invented antibiotics.
You know, so this has been a long time in the making. What was really that catalyst for development of this product? You had started a company before that that you were working on it, and then what made you stop and then realize that this needed to be packaged in a new way?
Well, I got involved in this project, believe it or not, over 25 years ago, and
wow.
I was the first scientist that was able to stabilize hypochlorous acid and put it in a bottle with a shelf life of 18 months or 2 years. We could actually ship it to Shanghai or anywhere for physicians to use it. The great thing about HOCl is when we stabilize it, we realized unlike antibiotics, which is a fixed chemistry and bacteria can grow resistance to it, HOCl actually dissociates into multiple, I want to refer to as missiles. These are ionic charged molecules that they're all attacking and bombarding the bacteria and viruses from different angles. And that's why bacteria can grow resistance to it. But at the same time, it's very safe because our body can actually handle and metabolize it. For us, the key thing that we actually developed this and put it into market over the last 20 years in the predecessor companies. We did over 30 clinical trials around the world, and we realized that actually we treated actually 20 million patients, and we realized that HOCl is well tolerated. It actually benefits in eradicating and resolving infections in wounds if it's appropriately formulated. But we equally learned that there are a lot of shortcomings with the technology. We realized that very quickly that if wounds are very infected and you actually put HOCl in there, the HOCl actually readily becomes inactivated by the exudate in the wound and by the body serum. For example, if you put it in the abdomen for treatment of abdominal infection, the serum actually deactivates the HOCl. We embarked on this journey at Spectrum Antimicrobials to resolve this major scientific barrier. How could we actually turn a formulation of HOCl into a new chemistry that does not become, doesn't get inactivated in presence of blood serum and exudate in wounds? And we have developed 4 different platform technologies now, each designed to treat different types of wounds or pulmonary infections and things of that sort.
Wow, that brings me to my next question, the target markets. You talked about 4 different platforms, and one including those non-healing ulcers, the ones that lead to amputations, especially in diabetic patients.
Well, absolutely. This chemistry and the platforms we have designed literally has utilization in a vast number of medical applications. That includes treatment of infected wounds, dermatology, skin care. We can use it for treatment of infection in the eye, upper and lower respiratory infections, abdominal, the list goes on and on. But as a company, we have set priorities, and we are actually excited to announce that we will be filing our very first 510K on this very unique chemistry within a matter of the next few weeks. And we expect clearance sometime in the first half of 2021, so we can actually make the first generation of our product for debridement, cleaning, moistening wounds, and it can be utilized in wound care management. However, getting antimicrobial claims, they will require additional studies, which we plan to do for FDA in order to gain those clearances and approvals as well.
Right, whether it's for hand sanitizer, whether it's for the pulmonary infections such as with COVID or beyond.
Absolutely. So every one of these, actually, we actually have specific plans. We actually are developing right now packages and formulations that ultimately is going to be used for treatment of upper and lower respiratory infection. That includes pneumonia, bronchitis, because HOCl, again, is not very specific to a given virus. It's a very general antiviral product and could be potentially used for treatment of COVID as well. Again, it will require significant clinical trials, which we are embarking on that journey right now.
It's amazing that one thing can actually take on or battle, because the human body is pretty spectacular if you think about it, and playing upon the body's own defenses and just making them even more powerful, I think it is brilliant. And that's probably why you ended up not giving up in the first set and saying, hey, we got to resolve this issue and move forward.
Yeah, a lot of scientists and companies are actually harvesting the power of immune system to fight different types of cancers, because the immune system doesn't just fight infection, it also does that. We are using the power of the immune system to primarily focus on treatment of viral and bacterial infections and those induced by superbugs.
Bring us back to that first patient that you saw where you had this aha moment, like, oh my gosh, it works. This is going to be huge. It's my whole life's work and it's now paying off. I'm helping people.
Actually, the clock goes way back to about 2004, 2005. Actually, we put our very first generation of our inventions into the market. And this was actually in a children burn unit in Mexico, where I was invited to actually take a tour. Physicians were trying to show us and our team how they're utilizing the product and how it's saving lives. And these were children actually burned 2nd degree, 3rd degree. And with these kind of cases, they're very worried about Pseudomonas infection or infection in general. So what they had learned through trial and error that they can actually debride the patient and then don't wrap the patient, because when you wrap gauze, when you start taking it off, you're actually peeling off tissue, which leads to formation of really bad scars. In this case, they were laying them flat, and then they erected four poles at each corner of bed, put a sheet over it so the sheet is not coming in contact with the patient. And they would spray the patient with R-hypochlorous acid every 4 to 6 hours. Amazingly, they were not using antibiotics. The use of antibiotics had dropped more than 95% in the hospital. The healing times were getting accelerated. But more importantly, they were seeing faster release, patients getting released from the hospital. So it was both an economic as well as a huge benefit to the patient and a great treatment option. So we are hoping with the current new advances we have made at the Spectrum Antimicrobials to even go beyond that and provide something that doesn't get deactivated as easily and physicians can use a lot easier in treatment of both topical and invasive infections.
And you've had several doctors here in the US that have used your product on these diabetic ulcers that we first mentioned. Dr. David Alley, a very well-known vascular surgeon out of Lafayette, Louisiana, had first brought this product to my attention because he was blown away at how quickly that wounds of his patients were able to heal. So I imagine that you've done a few clinical trials of late here in the US, and Dr. Alley being one of those participants.
So Dr. David Alley actually was one of the pioneer physicians back in early 2000, actually realized what we had created and actually started doing some trials and was one of the leading physicians actually using this product in various type of wound care and limb salvage. Our current product at the Spectrum Antimicrobials is not cleared by FDA, currently is not being used in the market. But the predecessor inventions that I had made at previous companies, Dr. Ali actually, as I said, he was one of the pioneers, and we ended up doing actually a phase 2 controlled randomized trial against levofloxacin in the United States in 2007, showing that even the use of HOCl in a phase 2 trial showed better promise than use of levofloxacin. So yes, we are really looking forward to getting clearances from FDA and getting into additional clinical trials here in the US for our current product advancement.
And so specifically the indications you're looking for, I assume it's a 510K because you do have a predicate. How will these doctors be able to use it? Who will be able to use it?
For the first generation of our product, which we expect FDA clearance in early 2021, would allow physicians to primarily use it as safe as saline. So instead of saline, they can use our product to safely debride, moisten, and clean wounds, both chronic as well as acute wounds. And the next generation would be a hydrogel version of the same product. And then we are looking at additional studies that we plan to do in 2021 in order to gain antimicrobial claims or for claims for treatment of an infection in a wound.
What are some of the barriers to market for clearance at this point?
Well, the first barrier which we have resolved was actually making sure the science works, right? We actually have the first HOCl that doesn't get deactivated. Now is going before the FDA, but we are very comfortable because at the predecessor company, again, I had filed more than 10 510K clearances on the original version of this HOCl. So FDA is very familiar with HOCl and HOCl chemistry. So we don't anticipate a significant uphill journey with FDA. We anticipate to go very smoothly with that.
And what are the distribution plans? Is it going to be direct to doctor or through other channels?
We ultimately, as a small company, we would love to partner. We would like to partner this wound care product in the United States as well as abroad. But in the meantime, we will be actively going into the market upon receiving our clearance. We have access to many physicians. These are key opinion leaders in the world, Dr. David Ali, Dr. Jerry Stolmans with Johns Hopkins, and so on. We'll be actually placing this product in the market showing additional penetration in the market. And then in parallel, we'll be working hopefully with partners to take a broader portion of penetration in the current market.
What's interesting is there's so many different opportunities beyond, vascular. You talked about dermatology. You mentioned regular burn care. You mentioned possibly with COVID-19, pulmonary infections, pneumonia, but you're also getting into veterinary care as well.
Absolutely. We actually sent out a news release that our first generation HOCl has been actually released for wound care in the animal healthcare market. We actually donated over 1,000 units of our solution to UC Davis Animal Healthcare, the Veterinarian School of Medicine. Because of the Northern California fires in Oregon, there were thousands of wildlife and domesticated animals that they were burned, and they're still being cared for. So we made that genuine donation to them. We are part of this community, and we want to do something very positive. So we are already have launched this product in the United States. We are partnering with veterinarians and hospitals. You can visit vetricept.com. That's actually a site where you can actually purchase the product. But in parallel, now we are looking at, as I said, completing our 510(k) application, file that with the FDA, gain that clearance first half of next year. We follow that up with additional product as a hydrogel, because the hydrogel physicians like it a lot more than just liquid, because it stays longer on your skin, especially if you have a burn. That's much more effective. And in parallel, we actually have developed additional formulations of this product. One is actually a novel pathogenic resistant water that can actually be used in CPAP machines to prevent the growth of bacteria within the humidifiers. So we are also partnering with a company in UK. We have launched our hand sanitizer in UK. We have launched it as a disinfectant. Now we are looking at actually wound care similarly in Europe. And we are working with several key opinion leaders in advancing a different formulation of our HOCl for treatment of pulmonary infections that, again, caused by either cold, pneumonia, and so on. And that includes COVID-19. But again, it's going to take some time to develop those safety and efficacy data. But we see exciting frontiers in front of us in terms of potential for acceptance of our technology in the market.
Thank you so much, Hoji Elimi. He is the CEO of Spectrum Antimicrobials. And I always love, talking to amazing inventors such as yourself, where you're going above and beyond what's been invented. You're going into the unknown, where no one's been able to solve a problem, and you're tackling it. We really appreciate all of your time and effort in helping to save life and limb. Thank you so much, Hoji.
Thanks for your time.